Looks like a raise from Danchev here. Under the gun +1. Jonathan Roy's been pretty quiet so far, but doesn't really have that many options. Here's the low man at the table, 1.3 million.
Fun's good.
And he is really hoping that Jerry Wong can catch in a couple more beats. I think when you come in as the short stack and that first person goes out in front of you, you're pretty much free rolling the rest of the day after that.
A reminder that you can download the app, watch us on your iPhone, watch us on your iPad or your Android phone or tablet. Get in touch, use the hashtag PCALive, email nuts@pokerstars.tv. Many of you tweeting asking for the free roll password. I did actually give it out a short while ago, and we will keep reminding you of that password as the day goes on. It is DeBella, in honor of John DeBella, who won the main event last year here at Paradise Island.
Yeah. Another word, the password is not poker. The password is also not poker.
In fact, it is DeBella, D-I-B-E-L-L-A.
Anybody else while he's here?
Which key is the double L key?
The double L key.
I hear you.
They should fold it around to the button. Chip leader Joel Micker with Queen 10 raises.
Fellow pro Daryl Fish will be sweating Joel pretty hard in today's event. They both made a final table in Panama, and in that event they swapped.
One thing we
both went deep in Panama, excuse me. Daryl Fish went deep with Joel in Panama and gave up a little bit of his winnings there. Joel decided to sell some of his action to Daryl for this event. Daryl says he's due to make back all of what he gave Joel before and then some.
So we can see that Jerry Wong's actually lost 5.5 million from the start of the day over the course of 23 hands. Mika up 1.5 million. And of course, Shatilov and Danchev are the two players who doubled through Wong. One thing we haven't mentioned, Joe, or drawn particular attention to, is the actual table draw itself. And the great seat that Mika actually has, that he's got the button when it's the inexperienced player's big blind. And so far, we've seen that from Nogueira. He's been very cautious, doesn't want to play too many hands.
That's a good point.
I mean, obviously, Nogueira guaranteed at least $165,000. A great return on investment for a $1.10 buy-in. And just like I said, he's not been playing too many hands. We now see him in action. It's Dion who raises the button with 9-10, and Nogueira calls from the small blind with King-Jack.
Danchev has asked what Dion started the hand with. Maybe looking to make a move with Queen Trey suited. Not giving a ton of credit to Dion's button raise so far, if he's even asking this question. But he does fold. We're going to see a flop.
Huh. Flop better, Nogueira. Although Dion does have a gut shot.
We have seen one gut shot bink the turn so far. Dion having no problem c-betting here. Sometimes you're going to get a fold. Not this time. Other times you're going to hit that gut shot.
Similar size stacks here. 200,000 chips between them. That's Jerry Wong talking to Andrew Badaker, who was sweating him at the table yesterday. I believe that Andrew does actually have a piece of Jerry's action.
Nogueira min raises with his top two. Don't hate the raise. There are some hands he could get action out of. Some people are just going to call there and let Dion fire again on the turn. But with some straight draws out there, a flush draw, you can get some decent protection from raising. Typically, you raise a little bit more if you're looking for protection.
It's funny because Inga just said on Twitter that Wong needs to take a 5-minute break. He looks devastated. It's so heartbreaking. Obviously, the fact that he's not involved in this hand gives him the opportunity to just take a couple of minutes away from the table.
These are two relatively short stacks going at it here.
By the way, you might want to check out Andrew Badaker's Twitter feed. Had some interesting things to say about our 9th place finisher and what happened in the queue for the nightclub last night.
And it looks like we're gonna see a 3-bet. No, he just calls, so again, a just call.
Are we gonna see another bink on the turn?
10 high and a gut shot.
No, just a 7.
Now, on the previous hand, the gut shot was binked. On this hand, I don't know if this is just a float or if folks are really calling to try to hit gut shots. If this was in fact a float, Dion is gonna get some bad news when he does finally pull the trigger. Nogueira keeping up the aggression. He raised the flop.
I think the game's up, Dion. I don't think this guy is ever gonna check raise the flop and then continue on the turn if he doesn't have something.
Well, Nogueira has bet pretty small here. It's like a third of the pot. If Dion was floating, he might consider just trying to make a move here. He's double gutted now.
Good point.
I think a just call here again would be pretty bizarre. Seems like he has just calling chips in his hands. Yep.
So he calls.
The double float? I don't think so. I don't know. Let's see if the river is. He gets there too. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. It's the 8 we were looking for. Whew. Oh my God. I thought he got there.
Nogueira has less than a pot-sized bet behind.
I'm so excited, James. I don't think he can call again.
The hero call with 10 high is not normally recommended in this spot.
And does he really think Nogueira's triple barreling?
And you really think you're going to be able to raise and take a guy off his hand when he's only got 700,000 behind? This is a fold. While Dion is tanking, Sean has just tweeted with a comment on the last hand we saw, the double up for Shatilov. He says, there was something majorly wrong with that shove on the turn, and he got Shatilov on.
Okay, Jan, there we go. If he makes every decision that slowly, I'm going to be doing a lot of yawning during this.
Thumbs up. The guy who qualified online for just $1.10, and we have now got some Portuguese railers. We've also got many Portuguese poker fans on Twitter. Jerry Wong getting an energy boost from a banana. Don't do a Peter Andre. Don't eat too many of those things. So Joel Mika, chip leader with 100 big blinds. Jonathan Roy and Yan Dion, 2 of the 3 Canadians at this final table, have sub-20 big blind stacks.
Jerry Wong has dropped from first position to 6th, but that chip stack there does not include his banana equity, which I think is going to add just a few more points in his favor.
By the way, for those of you not familiar with the legendary Peter Andre story, the musical artiste Peter Andre once ate too many bananas before going on stage and collapsed from potassium poisoning. I'm not actually sure how many bananas you have to eat.
You know, I just don't know how many of our musical legends we're going to have to see go down to this debilitating illness before there's better potassium poisoning education out there.
I better not misclick this time.
Danchev revealing that huge raise he made from the small blind was a misclick. He just said, I'm not going to misclick this time. He didn't mean to raise that big when he made it. Was it 380,000?
380,000, blinds 40-80.
So instead of raising, he gives Shatilov a walk.
I think if Danchev busts out of this tournament early, you know, he can probably go out and catch some lobster in his shirt.
Table short stack, Jonathan Roy moves all in. Pocket eights. Good enough hand to make a stand with his stack. King, queen for Nagari, does not call. In fact, Roy gets no action, he wins the blinds and antes.
Roy's been playing pretty tight. You can see folding king, queen, I guess.
So on the penultimate day of the tournament, Jonathan Roy started 20th of 21 players with a stack of 406,000. Managed to survive the day when his ace-king binked against George Clyde Smith's ace-10. He then doubled up, his ace-king beating Jerry Wong's jacks.
All in.
And then, late last night, when Ryan Fair moved all in with ace-6, and Joel Micker called with ace-10, the ace-10 held up. Ryan Fair exited in 9th place. And Jonathan Roy made that final table as the short stack, celebrating with his friend Yan Dion.
They played nine-handed for quite a while yesterday.
Not unusual for nine-handed play, the final table bubble, to take some time on the tour.
I think the viewers are missing out a little bit that we didn't get Ryan Fair at the final table. I think that he's, we'll say, a character.
Episode 8 should be a good show. Terry Lynn Hall says, have you announced the password? My internet keeps cutting out. Yes, we have. It's Dibella. D-I-B-E-L-L-A.
I wonder if he made good on his promise to buy Ferraris for his kids. It's either Ferraris or Porsches. He promised his kids that he would buy them if he won the main event here at the PCA last year, and he did.
That last hand, raise and take it for Dimitar Danchev.
Children take father to court over promises of Ferrari.
And this is Jonathan Roy's journey to the final table. So was a big stack on day 2, or rather at the end of day 2, 7th in chips overall. Came in as the low man, or one of the low men on day 4, and was the low man at the start of the final table, and still is the shortest stack with 1.42 million. But Yan Dion isn't that far behind with 1.46 million.
Yan Dion sounds kind of like a super group to me, like Yanni and Celine Dion had a kid. Be the adult contemporary artist of all time.
A7 suited. And Yan will raise, makes it 160,000.
Any relation to Celine Dion?
I don't believe so. There was a rumor going around that he was Celine Dion's nephew, but I think that rumor has been mixed.
1-4 behind.
Well, Yan Dion is really hoping that his hearts will go on in this hand. Come on! Come on, he has hearts.
I'll give you 6.3 out of 10 on that one, okay?
It's pretty good for me. No action.
Time for us to introduce our next guest. We have Rick Dacey with us, staff writer from the PokerStars blog. Rick, you were with us for the Super High Roller final table. Great to have you back today.
Thank you very much.
So, Rick, you've been covering the tournament from the very start. The first thing to say is, trying to be objective and look at this without our PokerStars hats on, 987 entries, actually 969 players because 18 didn't show up. Bit of disappointment?
Personally, no, because of 987 is still a phenomenal amount of people for a 10K event, and I think at times like this you almost are a victim of your own success. Constantly want more, constantly want it to be bigger and better. I mean, across the festival as a whole, we've had a huge amount of runners. The High Roller, for instance, has just topped 200 entries, which is quite incredible for a 25K buy-in event. So
that's such a 33% increase on last year, so that is significant.
Yeah, it was 148 last year. I mean, part of that difference was re-entries went all through day one. Last year it was just the four first levels, which were a very shallow blind structure. So you basically had to be cooled to get a chance to reload. Obviously it's not the case when you play 11 levels.
Well, we thought we might have a two-time EPT champion here in the PCA main event. Mohsen Charania made it to the penultimate day, moved all in with pocket deuces, got one call, and then another. And I think Mohsen at this point knew he was not in good shape. 7-10-3 flop. The all-in from Littman with Queen Jack, and Jerry Wong, who'd hit top pair with his ace-10, calls. So now we have a three-way all-in. And Mohsen Charania drawing to a deuce. And the end result of that is that Mohsen Charania was eliminated. Littman was crippled, and Jerry Wong was on his way to coming into today's final as chip leader. Obviously, it's not really gone his way so far today. But we have to give credit to Mohsen Charania, Rick, because here's a guy who won the grand final at the end of season 8 and has had an amazing run here in the PCA main.
Sure, and actually I think it was the second to last hand of the night on day 4. He actually ran queens into kings in a huge hand, and that left him with about 6 big blinds. The fact that he actually managed to spin it back up a little bit, you know, just shows he's a good player with a deep stacked or short stacked.
So this is hand number 30 of the final table. Action was folded to Jonathan Roy. The short stack has moved all in from the button with King-Queen, as you'd expect him to. Ace-King, rather. It's Queen-Jack for the chip leader, Joel Mickett, in the small blind. And both blinds folding. Jonathan Roy stays alive by adding the blinds and antes to his stack. So, at what point did these guys start to come onto your radar? Was there anyone from the beginning, from the early days, you were thinking, you know, this is someone who's...
Well, Danchev we knew already. I mean, he's quite a sort of stony-faced, unreadable character, but the fact that he almost beat Andrei Patachuk, who's come through as one of the sort of new wave of great Russian players. So Danchev, who was actually incredibly unlucky in San Remo. There was a huge outdraw, wasn't there, heads up. So Danchev was always on the radar. Owen Crow was always on the radar. I remember watching him way back about 3 or 4 seasons ago at the EPT Grand Final in Monte Carlo. And he was very assured there, and he was doing incredibly well. He was absolutely bossing his table, and it's been the same here. I mean, the other players, I spoke to Joel Micah yesterday, and Joel basically was rating Wong and Okro heavily. So I asked, you know, assuming Joel didn't win himself, who did he expect to see heads up, and it was basically between Crow and Wong.
That hand raise and take it for Dimitar Danchev. I guess the biggest story from the beginning of the tournament was the appearance of Michael Phelps, which of course got mainstream media coverage for the tournament, particularly in the United States, and was obviously a huge thing. And it was interesting to see, I think Michael came to the feature table, the TV table, on day 2, and he's got game.
Yeah, and I mean, he circulates with quite a lot of the guys who can play well. Seen him talking with Antonio Esfandiari a lot, which I presume is Esfandiari being friendly as opposed to just trying to massage someone into a high-stakes game, but maybe a bit of both. But yeah, Phelps seems a very personable guy, seems quite, you know, obviously very charismatic, very competitive, so you'd expect him to not be a pushover anyway, but I think he's been learning from these guys and he's obviously very passionate about it.
Not the only sports star we saw play in the tournament. Sergio Garcia, who had a deep run last year, also returned but didn't get beyond day 1. Boris Becker, obviously in the tournament, along with Fatima, who, as we found out earlier on, min cashed in this. So we have an all-in here. The guy who started as the chip leader could be the first man out here. And under the gun raise from Andrei Shatilov with 4s. We haven't seen Wong's cards, but he has reshoved for 1.6 million, around 20 bigs. And Shatilov asking for a count.
It's quite a large chunk of his stack there.
So many players in this spot convince themselves though that the guy moving all in's got ace-king and think, I'm marginally ahead.
This is true, but I don't know. I think he'll find a fold with 4s.
4.665.
As he makes a call, obviously.
Just over 20 big blinds. And Shatilov will let it go.
So who's impressed you so far?
Well, I mean, Joel Mika has obviously took the chip lead by virtue of Wong doubling up Danchev early doors. But Joel Mika seems to be finding his spots, and something I did observe is that he does have the advantage of that whenever he's on the button, he's got the inexperienced Portuguese player in the big blind, and sure enough, if it's folded to him on the button, he will be raising that big blind every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been impressed by Micah. He was one of the short stacks with about 14 players, still one of the short stacks with about 12, and then mainly thanks to Ryan Fair, just started chipping up, doubling up, and finished the day second in chips. So again, similar to Moshin Chironia mentioned earlier, he seemed happy playing short stacked or deep stacked.
Once again. Take it.
I'll walk there for Shatilov. So it's not been a great day for Jerry Wong, but yesterday was an awesome day. He started with a stack of 1.4 million, 9th in chips, ended the day as chip leader. It helps when you have aces and the other guy has kings, of course.
Yeah, that will do it.
Involved in a big hand against Yan Dion. Queen comes on the river, and there's a big bet from Wong, and Dion decides to give it up. And then Dimitar Danchev takes on Jerry Wong. And we know that Wong had a 5, and there is trips on the turn. Wong, with those trip 5s, makes a huge river bet, and after some consideration, Danchev calls. Wong shows his trip 5s, and Danchev mucks. So Wong ended day 5 of the tournament as chip leader. He does not have that chip lead anymore. For those of you who just joined us, he's doubled up 2 players at this final table. Dimitar Danchev and Andrei Shatilov, and is now one of the low stacks at the table. Let's recap the action here. A raise from Yan Dion. And a re-raise from Andrei Shatilov from the big blind. He 3-bets to 350,000.
Dion's obviously not going anywhere here. There's going to be a jam.
And it's tough for Shatilov to justifiably fold after 3-betting.
Sure, this looks like a good spot for Dion to double up here.
All in.
He shoves, and Shatilov calls.
Ace queen or ace jack? Yes, ace queen. Ace of hearts. Queen of spades. Ace of clubs. Oh yeah, so it's queen. So that might.
So Yan Dion is ahead. 71% favourite, but he is the player at risk.
King of spades, 6 of spades, 4 of clubs.
So far, so good, and he is the only player with a spade in his hand. Just as the fade jacks.
Card is the 9 of diamonds. We will need to cut the jack.
Faites-moi pas ça, s'il vous plaît.
And we'll double up.
Only 3 cards that can eliminate him. Safe board, which will see the Canadian double up to 3.1 million. Shatilov now down to 4.98 million. Still second on the leaderboard.
You can often tell the quality of a player just by who's on his rail, and Dion has De Hamel and Chris McClung, and I think that says a lot. McClung, if you don't know him, plays his Doritos online, phenomenal player, and obviously, well, everyone knows who De Hamel is.
Inga Christofferson on Twitter says that Wong seems to have regained his composure. There's some energy about him now. I think he will win. Go Wong.
Yeah.
We've seen people come back from worse deficits than that.
1.470.
So what's been your highlight of the PCA so far, Rick, now that we're coming to the end of the festival?
Well, being being a healthy cynic, I often like the fails more than the successes. And Phil Helmuth, well, everyone loves a bit of Schadenfreude with him. And yeah, Phil's played 3 events and lasted for, well, the main event he lasted a little while, but bought into the super high roller, bought into the high roller, lasted probably less than an hour combined. And so that's always entertaining. A little bit harsh on Phil, but still, always makes you smile.
He gave us some entertainment on the TV table in the main event, so when we come to cut those shows, it should be good.
And if I can do a shameless plug, if anyone's interested in what's going on in the high roller at the moment, you can go to the PokerStarsblog.com. There's a widget on the right-hand side, click on that, and it will take you through to the coverage, the chip counts, and when they're actually announced, the payouts. It's looking like it's going to pay about 24 players, and the day started with about 66. That started at midday, so it's probably not that far off the money now. And that's playing through to the final table, which will be streamed here live, of course, tomorrow.
2 o'clock Eastern Time, once again, on a slight delay to ensure we can bring you whole card information if and when players flash their card to the cameras.
I'm sure they'll all behave wonderfully.
Should say hello to RF Pockets on Twitter, who says, "Can I get a holler? It would make my week in work happier. Hashtag wish I was in the Bahamas. Hashtag it's cold here." Holler.
Oh, you do actually have to say holler.
Yeah. I think it's kind of part of the deal.
And sponsored by Lay's or Walkers, is that? I'm not sure about that. The chips here, they're not as good as crisps back home.
I don't think many people were actually looking at what they were eating, Rick.
I think it probably says a lot about my priorities. Always take free food.
Hand number 36 of the final table, still 8-handed, still to lose a player. Folded around to Owen Crow.
He will obviously raise. I'd imagine he's got a button raising percentage of in excess of 95%.
Owen Crow has the Queen of Diamonds. Jerry Wong looks interested from the small blind. Ace-8 offsuit.
He's definitely got a 3-bet shoving stack there, but whether he's going to want to use it.
Yeah, he moves all in. Disappointed that they don't seem to use the red triangle of death at the PCA, Rick, which has become a great part of the EPT.
Well, you've got to keep things set apart somehow, and that triangle of death, it's obviously a European thing.
And Roy shoves from the big blind with ace-queen. Crow folds. And Roy is the player at risk, but he has the best hand by some margin.
Ace-queen, ace-8.
I mean, we've seen one queen is already out of the equation, but it's one who's doing the chasing at the moment. So.
Of course, Roy has already been the beneficiary of one suck out. His ace-6 cracked to ace-10. This time he wants the best hand to hold to survive.
If Wong loses this, he's going to be left incredibly short.
He's got 495,000 behind.
We got chop outs.
Rick, everyone loves a chop pot.
Up until it's 3 a.m.
So yeah, Queen Jack.
Ten or a 6 will chop it. Nate Roy's out the door. It's a 6 for a chop.
Harsh as that is on Roy, that's
it kind of only seems fair on Wong. He has played incredibly well this last week, and to go out when someone happens to find a bigger ace when you're jamming for a little over 20 bigs from the small blind at the final table seems a bit harsh.
So we need to talk about this chap in the 1 seat, Rick.
Okay.
João Nogueira, a Portuguese player who is an air conditioning installer from a tiny town in Portugal with a population of 2,500 and is here courtesy of a $1.10 sit and go that got him into a $10 qualifier, and here he is now guaranteed at least 165,900.
That is a pretty healthy ROI there, and especially when you consider not just the money he's won, but the fact that he's had 10 days in paradise as well. Not that he's probably had much time to go out on the beach, but I think he can balance that off. But there's actually been a Portuguese poker media person who we know who's actually not only been having to translate for him, but has also been translating dollars into euros, because he literally didn't know how much he was winning, which was fantastic. And he's going to be throwing this party back home in this small town in Portugal where he lives, and I'd imagine you get quite a lot of cervezas for 165 grand. But I mean, it's currently looking like he's going to sort of finish top 6, top 5. Who knows?
I know that his girlfriend couldn't actually make the trip to the Bahamas because of she's still studying at college, so maybe she's watching the live stream today and hoping to see João do better than an 8th place finish for 165,900. Remember, the winner here is guaranteed nearly 1.9 million.
I think we can pretty much guarantee that he is not going to be getting it in loose, and he's not going to be opening too loose. So it's either going to be blinding down and then having a big chance at a double up.
Right.
So I can't see him going out 8th or 7th. It's going to be sort of top 6 or better, surely.
I mean, granted, we've only seen 37 hands. This is number 38. But certainly after they doubled up through Wong, Danchev and Shatilov seem to be the most active players at the table. Danchev has opened here with a raise, and Crow decides to come over the top of him, all in for 20 big blinds.
Roughly.
Danchev says how much you have roughly.
I mean, that's presumably it's an ace or a 10 with that 10 ball there.
1-6.
7, 8.
All right, fold.
When he says all right there, I'm assuming you're going to get a call, and then it was the fake fist pump. The pump fake, and then instead he folds, and Crow, with his pocket 10s, will add a little bit to his stack.
You say a little bit. I mean, that's a definite nice uptick, especially when you consider he only had 1.5 million or so.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to play the free roll tonight, it starts at 7:15 Eastern Time. You can register now in the PCA section of the PokerStars tournament lobby. You'll need that password, DIBELLA, D-I-B-E-LLA. And if you feel like playing some poker in the next week, the Turbo Championship of Online Poker kicks off on the 17th. 50 events with buy-ins ranging from $7 to 2,100. And of course, qualifiers are running at PokerStars.
Now, that password of DeBella, John actually won the first side event here at the PCA as well. So, bookend, well, reverse bookend, if that even works. But yeah, he won about 70k in the first side event of the festival. You can check out all the side event results again on the PokerStars blog. If you go to the widget on the right-hand side, there's payouts, and you can see who's done well. I mean, we've had some great and interesting winners and great side events. Obviously, there was the Open Face Chinese, which was won by Peter Jetton. He picked up about 52k there. We've had others, a couple of team pros. Marcel Lusk won one horse, showing the old school ways can still win out. And Adrian Talanchik Rosum also won a side event, the Triple Stub. So it's been really interesting. Obviously, you guys on the TV side have sort of limited focus, limited exposure, but we see the room on the whole, which is huge, the Imperial Ballroom, and there's, I was going to say 1 million tables. There's not 1 million tables, but there's a lot.
It's about 150 tables, I believe.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably about right. But yeah, there's a lot to cover. Obviously, we do what we can, but our main focus again is obviously following the main, following the high roller, the super high roller, and those key tournaments of interest like the Open Face Chinese, which has been covering a lot of the cash game tables.
6-5 suited for Yan Dion. He raises his button. Nogueira will call out of the small blind.
That is the classic small blind calling hand there, isn't it? King Queen.
And he flops an up and down draw. Dion's pretty much whiffed this board.
Dion could well just check behind here. There you go. I mean, that Jack 10 just smacks the someone just calling there.
Now Dion has a gut shot. And with his draw, looks like Nogueira wants to bet the turn.
Now he's actually picked up a draw. I mean, it's a thin draw. He may continue. There is enough if he hits, but yeah, it was too much just for a single gut shot and no pair outs.
Big Mickey says, who's in the booth with you at the moment? It's Rick Dacey from the PokerStars blog. Obviously, we've got various guests coming in. We've got about 18 minutes left on this level. Then there'll be a short break. After the break, Joe Stapleton will be back, joined by David Williams from Team PokerStars Pro. Chris Moneymaker will be joining us later on. Ryan D'Angelo, golfer himself, who made the final table of this tournament back in 2010. He'll be here. Hopefully Lex Veldhaus, Barry Greenstein, and some various members of Team Online. Obviously, these guys suddenly end up in side events and then they end up going deep and that ruins our schedule. How dare they play poker?
I know. It's almost like the media commitment's almost forgotten when you've got a chance to win an extra 80 grand. I mean, it's just rude.
Raise.
160,000. Min raise from Owen Crow.
I think we know what's going to happen here. Well, oh, it was obviously.
Just been told to ignore those whole cards. Maybe a slight graphics glitch. We're not 100% sure of the hands at the moment.
I mean, Kings is within your UTG opening raising range, so we could give him that.
Raise. 355. All in. Call. All in call.
All in the call, and it looks like the cards may have been correct.
Oh, he's not happy.
It is Kings for Crow, and it's nines for Nogueira.
Wow.
Well, Crow is the player all in. Crow is the player at risk, but he's a huge favourite here.
And this is for most of the for Nogueira's stack as well.
No.
Well, it's looking pretty good for the Kings
I
here.
like that flop.
Is that 2 hearts on the flop? No. In that case, just running nines. 9 through the sweat.
Come on.
Ah.
Portuguese player drawing dead on the turn, and so Crow gets the double up. And Nogueira now becomes the table short stack with 1.2 million.
And there's going to be several people at the table not happy to see that happen.
1.5. 1.7.
As much as Nogueira's played well, he is still vastly less experienced than Owen Crow. And so the other guys at the table must have been wishing a 9 was falling there.
1.950,000. All in. for 1,950,000.
Hello to Sasha, who says, bring back the money to Quebec, guys, i.e. Jonathan Roy and Yann Dion, the two French-Canadian players at this final table.
I knew we'd get it.
And Steve says, watching poker on the computer and watching football, that's the American variety, on my TV. Hoping for a Seattle comeback. I've actually lost track of what's happening in that game.
Majuscule au début, mais maintenant.
Ils se sont pris de bord. J'ai mon mot de passe.
Thank heavens we weren't live streaming yesterday so that I could watch the 49ers smash the Packers. Boom.
Ouais, 2.7.
So confirmation that João Nogueira is the short stack with 15 bigs. Joel Mika way out in front with 103 big blinds. Shatilov the second biggest stack. And Ozzy on the emails, nuts@pokerstars.tv, says, where are the black chips? I remember James adoring them in previous tournaments. Have they been replaced by white chips? That would be outrageous. Yeah, they use slightly different chips for the PCA than on the rest of the European Poker Tour. They're black and white, kind of grey chips for 100,000s. But don't worry, because in February, we're going to Deauville, where they have plaques.
I love the plaques. Everyone loves the plaques. The noise of the plaques, even more so than the look.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
Thanks to Rob for updating me that the Seahawks have pulled it back to within a touchdown. Got to keep an eye on the game, got to keep an eye on the game. Action here, folded around to the blinds. And looks like a walk for Owen Crow. Yeah, just a quick word on EPT Deauville. An exciting development for the next leg of the European Poker Tour. We are going to be live streaming every single day of the main event. No hole cards, obviously, but from day 1A through to day 6, the final table, Joe Stapleton and I will be in France, bringing you live action from that tournament. It all kicks off on Sunday, the 3rd of February. Watch on PokerStars.tv or, of course, via the PokerStars TV app, which if you haven't downloaded by now, you really should. Nogueira's all in from the hijack, doesn't get any action, wins the blinds and antes.
Just under 15 bigs he shoved.
The biggest losers, the biggest gainers. Look at Jerry Wong. He's lost $5.5 million from the start of the day.
That's my boy. I love him. I do. I really do. I
But
love him.
yeah, he doesn't look too phased by it at the moment.
To Joe Stapleton,
That's
you know he's drinking
Jordan
Goose
Westmoreland.
Cheers. Cheers.
They're raising their glasses to Joe Stapleton, who they say is drinking goose fat. Nope, we don't get it either.
Raise 160.
Raise and take it for Owen Crow. Crew with 4.34 million. Fourth on the leaderboard. We're coming to the end of the level, just 10 minutes left and still 8 players. I've got a few shorties though who are pretty much in shovel fold mode.
Raise 160.
Under the gun raise from Yan Dion. Alan Crow with the decision. No action from anyone. Well, let's introduce you to a new feature here on PCALive. It's Stapes' Guide to the Bahamas.
27.
Hard to believe that guy won the Bahamian presidency by only 2 votes. You should have seen him before he went to Juilliard.
Stapes will be back with David Williams after the next tournament break. 8 minutes to go on the level. A few hellos to say on Twitter. We've got Michael Pereira. He says, please say hello to Michael in Portugal. Hello to Michael in Portugal. I've created my own Twitter account for this. Jout ruined everything. I hope he recovers. Bit dramatic.
Ruined everything. I think at the beginning of the tournament, he'd quite happily take a final table.
Alex on Twitter is very keen to find out if any Romanians played the PCA main event. He's asked several times. We did have that country breakdown map, and I'm sure there must have been at least one Romanian player.
Raise 160.
I imagine that probably there was a Romanian in the 11% of the field that was made up of other countries that aren't detailed.
Well, that's listed beneath, I think. Not on yours, it isn't. But in that case, I'm saying yes, there was a Romanian. Ignat Livu, probably.
Let's recap the action here. An early position raise from Shatilov with ace-10. The 3-bet from Crow with ace-king. Folded back around to the original raiser. Rush's answer to Ricky Gervais will fold.
Could be worse. Could be Cole Pilkington.
Urian is asking, what's going on at the World Cup of Poker? Can't find any updates about it. Can you help this man, Rick Dacey?
Yes. Someone won.
Where can they go to find information about the World Cup of Poker?
Sorry, yeah. Sorry for being contrary. Yes, they can go to the PokerStarsBlog.com, where there's a full write-up of all the action. And Germany did not win. Germany came second. If you want to find out who won, go there yourself and find out. I'm going to be coy.
You want those hits. That's what. Let's be honest.
Come on, another 10 and I get my bonus. I'll get a free banana, and that's not cheap round here.
I'm receiving an update that we cannot find any Romanians on the list. So maybe there were no Romanians in the PCA main event. That would be surprising. Normally get 2 or 3 in most major tournaments.
Yeah, you normally get a handful in the EPT, but obviously it's a bit further afield. So maybe they're all saving their money up for Deauville, and we're going to be hit by a 10% entry to France. It's a possibility. Not very strong.
Oh, we've gone from having no Romanians to 7. Not sure where those 7 were hiding. Any raise on 7? No, 7 Romanians. We're going to stick with 7. As you'd expect, the
Check.
549 flop. Mika raised to 160,000. Dion 3-bet to 350,000.
Now, it's going to be interesting whether Dion C-bets here. I imagine he is, because, well, he's got a pair and he's got backdoor straight draws here as well. Going for a bit of pot control, it looks like.
So Dion did continue. Mika calls. Checks a second time.
I mean, Dion hasn't got much more than a pot-sized bet in there, so 2.2 million behind pot's 1.4 million. So expect that he'll probably check behind now.
Reckon this goes check on the river, Rick?
I don't know. I actually think Dion might try and stick out sort of a bet of about 700,000, maybe half pot, and try and take it, because that will still leave him with best part of 20 big blinds, because he knows he's not winning now. But obviously he can represent the king or something better. But it's just will Joel call it?
$580,000, so he has taken a stab at it.
He had to, or it was giving up, wasn't it?
580,000.
Joel's definitely considering that.
I was going to say, Rick, how easy a call is this for him?
Well, it's obviously not that easy. I mean, it's a lot easier when you've got a stack of chips that big in front of you. But I think he's just got to consider, has he caught the king? And he doesn't believe he has.
So Mika calls.
Great call.
And wins another big pot to the delight of his rail.
JMP! 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 Let's go, baby! Rock and roll!
The man they call JM Prodigy online is now up to 9.4 million.
It makes it so hard.
What did he have?
And Yan Dion is down, to 1.57 million. So a significant chip lead now for Mika as we come to the end of this level. We're going to go on a 15-minute break shortly. During that break, by the way, you'll be able to see highlights from the PokerStars big game.
You had the win, and that's all that matters.
Woo! Talking about. Go on, son.
Obviously not from America. That's George Clyde Smith. He ran deep, just missed out on the final table actually. He was a $10 qualifier, so he's still, I think he won about $95,000, so that's still an incredible return. And the other guys who are railing Joel there are actually Supernovas and possibly even Supernova Elites who all sort of lived out in Thailand with Joel and yeah, basically smashed the pokers.
Action folded around to Jerry Wong, who started the day as chip leader, but is now one of the short stacks. By the way, Jerry is missing his wife's birthday by being here. He says he will buy her a present, but only if he wins.
Well, that's a bit tough.
But he's assured her she won't be getting a yacht. Well, at this rate, he's likely to get 8th or 7th place. I don't think you can get a yacht for that kind of money.
But you'd get a really nice rowboat.
Jonathan Roy has raised with King 3 suited. And there is the shove from our short stack, João Nogueira.
Well, this is going to be an easy fold. It's just how long is he going to take to think about it?
No time at all, he will fold. So it looks like that will be the last hand of the level. My thanks to Rick Dacey, staff writer at the PokerStars blog. Hopefully you'll be back with us later on, Rick.
Either myself or Brad Willis, who's head of PokerStars blog. So you get an upgrade there.
After the break, when we rejoin the action with the blinds at 50, 100,000 with a 10k ante, Joe Stapleton will be joined by David Williams from Team PokerStars Pro. 8-handed action will continue at the final table of the 10th PokerStars.net Caribbean Adventure main event. Keep watching our continuous coverage here on PokerStars.tv.